Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Monsoon coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi lands in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro, gets a vibrant welcome from Brazil's Indian community. PM to take part in the two-day 17th BRICS summit starting today. Israel to send team to Qatar for Gaza hostage and ceasefire negotiations, but rejects Hamas demands to change ceasefire proposal. Netanyahu to meet US President Donald Trump in Washington on Monday. Billionaire Elon Musk launches a new political party in the US, calls it America Party, takes aim at both Republicans and Democrats, says America needs fresh leadership. Texas floods leave at least 50 dead. 27 girls are missing as rescuers search the devastated landscape. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a four-day visit to Brazil, where he will attend the 17th BRICS summit and undertake a state visit. On the fourth leg of his five-nation visit, PM Modi landed in Rio de Janeiro earlier today. This is Prime Minister Modi's fourth visit to Brazil and is happening at the invitation of Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. In a social media post, PM Modi wrote, and I quote, "Landed in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where I will participate in the BRICS summit and then head to its capital, Brasilia, for a state visit at the invitation of President Lula. Looking forward to a productive round of meetings and interactions during this visit." Upon his arrival at the hotel in Rio de Janeiro, members of Brazil's Indian community gave a very vibrant welcome to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. A group performed on Om Gan Ganpate mantra in honor of PM Modi. Prime Minister Modi lauded the Indian community in Brazil for their warm welcome extended to him. The Prime Minister said that it is amazing how they remain connected with Indian culture and are also very passionate about India's development. PM Modi also witnessed a powerful performance based on the theme of Operation Sindoor, a tribute to India's brave response against terror. The Prime Minister appreciated the heartfelt performance. Did India explored something very interesting in the heart of Brazil? Thousands of miles away from India, young Brazilians are learning ancient Indian mantras, sacred chants passed down for centuries in devotion of Indian gods and goddesses. Guided by Indian gurus and music instructors at the Swami Vivekananda Center for Indian Culture, established by ICCR, these students are not just singing, they are embracing a tradition of devotion, discipline, and divine connection. Listen in.
Number of youngsters in Brazil are embracing Indian spirituality, Indian music, Indian mantras and more. And we are joined in by such a group which has been learning this at the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center in São Paulo. And we'll talk to them to understand what they're learning. You know, it's been 4-5 years or more than that for a few of you who have been learning these Indian music, mantras and more. What do you have to say about it? What's your inclination?
We are singing mantra about, I think, 3 years and doing this devotional music. And we are very glad to be here to have this opportunity to meet with Narendra Modi and hope our frequencies go to the world with a lot of peace and love. And we are very happy to connect those cultures like India and Brazil. And we have India in our hearts. Everyone. And now it's like see a dream coming true because we sing mantras. It's like an instrument for us, but now we are like living this.
Indian culture has completely transformed my life for the last 10 years, and I'm deeply passionate and devotionally touched by this culture. So like he said, we've never been in this life in India yet, but India is inside of us, and we are feeling deeply honored by this opportunity by the director, Dr. Jyoti. Really, it's an honor to be here sharing this bhakti, this devotional that pulses through us. So yes, this comes from the straight of our hearts to all of the hearts, and it spreads musically, beautifully honoring this sacred ancient culture that is India. And yeah, it's amazing. It's a pleasure to be here. We're very honored. We send blessings to you all. Really love, 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 love.
Would like to sing for us the devotional mantras that you have learned over the years? Anything that's your favorite and you would like to sing for our audience in India?
Jaya Jagadambe Jai Ma, Jaya Jagadambe Ma Durga, Jaya Jagadambe Jai Ma, Jaya Jagadambe Ma Durga, Jaya Jagadambe Jai Ma, Jaya Jagadambe Ma Durga, Ma Durga, Ma Durga, Ma Durga, Ma Durga. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma.
How beautifully these people are learning what Indian culture, Indian music, art forms, devotion and spirituality is. Definitely something that transcends boundaries, and this is what we call living bridges between two countries, India and Brazil. With camera person Piyush Verma, this is Meghna Dey for DD India from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
As the BRICS summit in Rio approaches, India's role is under the spotlight, from counterterrorism to trade, with India playing a pivotal role in BRICS and bilateral ties with Brazil gaining steady momentum. DD India exclusively speaks to Ambassador Dinesh Bhatia, India's ambassador to Brazil, to discuss New Delhi's key priorities, the state of India-Brazil relations and what's at stake at this year's BRICS summit. Take a look.
We're joined in by Ambassador Dinesh Bhatia, who is the ambassador of India to Brazil. Thank you so much, sir, for talking to DD India. Sir, we would want to first ask you about the BRICS summit. What are India's priorities in this summit, and what can be expected that India is going to push for in this summit?
As far as BRICS summit is concerned, Prime Minister has participated in all the summits, and our basic agenda since the inception of BRICS has been global governance reform, and we will continue with the same agenda in this summit. Brazil is, of course, the partner in Global South. It's a strategic partner of India, and we have a common agenda of global governance reforms.
India has put its very strong stance on counterterrorism, and after the Pahalgam attack, how do you think India is going to push even stronger this time, or probably make a stronger consensus amidst the member states?
Counterterrorism is one of our core agenda. As far as BRICS is concerned, they will talk about it in some form, which I'm not privy to at this point of time. But on bilateral front, I can tell you that between India and Brazil, Brazil has supported us on this issue. And in this visit, we are trying to conclude an MOU on counterterrorism, which will be another step forward between the two strategic partners.
So, obviously, we'll shift focus to the bilateral that is going to happen between India and Brazil. How do you think, where is the trajectory of the relationship between both the leaders, Prime Minister Modi and President Lula, considering this is Prime Minister Modi's fourth visit this time?
Brazil and India have always been close countries. They have been part of Global South. And since 2006, our bilateral relations were elevated to strategic partnership. And of course, there have been several exchange of visits. Prime Minister Modi's first visit out of Indian subcontinent was to Brazil in July of 2014. That shows the closeness of importance and the closeness of relationship between India and Brazil. And the agenda in the meanwhile has amplified so much. It has deepened and broadened between the two countries. From political relationship, where we are close partners in various fora, we are talking about trade and investment. The trade between the two countries has gone up to more than $12 billion, with a slight trade surplus in favor of India. Then we are also talking about from agricultural research to scientific research to digital partnership, which is a very important agenda currently between India and Brazil.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for speaking to us. So here, as global attention shifts to Brazil with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the BRICS summit, as well as for this landmark bilateral that is going to happen between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Lula, we'll bring to you all the important updates, insights and exclusives from Brazil only for DD India.
An important business gathering is taking shape under the BRICS umbrella with a high-profile Indian business delegation in Brazil. From agribusiness to gems and jewelry to startups, the Indian delegation is scouting for key sectors ripe for collaboration. DD India speaks to the delegation in Rio de Janeiro about the expectations from the summit and the bilateral between India and Brazil.
Joined in by all business people from India. Ma'am, thank you so much for talking to us, and we already have a delegation. What are the expectations? What are we talking about? What is the brainstorming that's going on?
It's really heartening to see that for the Brazilian business delegation and who we've been interacting with, and of course the government officials here are really interested in promoting Brazilian startups. So I think there's a great synergy between Indian startups, Indian investors, legacy companies here, and investors and the governments wanting to work on innovation, startups and growing the whole startup ecosystem.
We're also, obviously, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be holding a bilateral with President Lula. What are the expectations of the Indian businessmen that you are expecting that will be one of the outcomes from the meeting?
We see a lot of opportunity because I see some diverse angles also here. Here the natural resources are in plenty. There is a scope for innovation is very high. What attracted me here is how do they use the biofuels? Yeah, they are the leaders in that.
Tariff is 100% there. That once it is reduced, certainly there is a lot of scope between two countries and both will be winner. Only is that CBO, mean complete build-up unit, should be allowed to basically export here at a slightly cheaper rate.
Economically speaking, what are the expectations from the BRICS?
BRICS is doing a great job by getting people united out here and making people understand what are the opportunities in India, Brazil, what bilateral trade we guys can do together.
We want the primacy of the Indian business. His visit will spur that and will actually give a big fillip and encouragement to all of us to do more.
Heightened security arrangements have been made in Rio de Janeiro ahead of the BRICS summit. Let's take a look at this report by our correspondent Meghna Dev.
Massive security preparations ahead of the BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro. The city has mobilized one of its largest security forces. We can say that one of the largest deployment that can be seen across the city of military and police personnel. Now, this is also to guard the summit venue, the key transit routes, as well as diplomatic delegations. Weeks ago, there had been a coordinated exercise of the forces in Rio de Janeiro to ensure that there is coordinated response and as well as protocols that can be coordinated properly about the security arrangements that have to take place during the summit. Besides that, this is not the first time that the city is seeing such heightened security. It has also happened, such a large-scale exercise has also happened during the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro. What we also see is that security has been beefed up at important locations across the city, on the streets, at the Ipanema beach. We also see heightened security at the Copacabana beach and other important places. 24/7 surveillance can clearly be seen, as well as there has been such security deployment to ensure that there is quick response to any untoward incident. With camera person Piyush Verma, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Still to come on DD India Newshour, Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei attends an event in the first public appearance after the 12-day war with Israel. Britain's foreign minister visits Damascus as UK re-establishes diplomatic relations with Syria. Ukraine's Zelensky says latest phone call with Donald Trump is most productive as Kyiv seeks additional Patriot missiles from the US.
We often think that water crises are natural disasters or triggered by them. But what if the truth is that we contribute heavily to this problem? Let's take a look how best can we navigate them.
We're kind of like doctors for lakes. For small, shallow, pond-like urban lakes, the Schaefer-Zee method is a good fit.
Of course, the poverty challenge that the children are facing, which is they could not overcome by themselves. It needs various collaboration.
Initially, we have taken a pilot project of 1.5 kilometers from both the sides of this bridge. Initial work was only cleaning of all the dumped garbage. We have removed almost more than 1,000 trucks of garbage from this place.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. Israel will send a delegation to Qatar for talks on a possible Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal, although Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says the changes requested by Hamas to a ceasefire proposal were unacceptable. Hamas's demands include withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. Netanyahu, who is due to meet US President Donald Trump in Washington on Monday, has repeatedly said Hamas must be disarmed. Hamas, however, has refused to discuss this Israeli demand. This comes after Hamas said that it had responded to a US-backed Gaza ceasefire proposal in a positive spirit, days after Trump said Israel had agreed to the necessary conditions to finalize a 60-day truce. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on Saturday made his first public appearance since the start of the 12-day Iran-Israel war. A video broadcast by the state media showed Khamenei attending a ceremony to mark Ashura, the holiest day of the Shiite Muslim calendar. Earlier reports said that the Iranian Supreme Leader had been in a secure location since the start of the war, in which top Iranian commanders and nuclear scientists were killed. The UK has announced that it was re-establishing diplomatic relations with Syria after the country's years-long civil war, as Foreign Minister David Lammy visited Damascus, pledging $129 million in support. Lammy met Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara. Lammy's visit, the first by a British minister in 14 years, comes days after US President Donald Trump signed an executive order terminating an American sanctions program on Syria, ending its isolation from the international financial system and helping it rebuild after the war.
I'm here really on behalf of the British people who have always stood by the Syrian people with humanitarian aid and support, to speak to this new government, to urge them to continue to be inclusive, to ensure that there's transparency and accountability in the way that they govern, but to stand by the Syrian people and Syria as it makes this peaceful transition over the coming months, and to continue to strengthen bilateral ties between the UK government and the government here in Syria.
Amid the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, Ukraine is seeking additional Patriot air defense systems to bolster its security. The development follows what Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky described as his most productive talks yet with US President Donald Trump. In his address, President Zelensky emphasized the critical importance of air defense, saying the Patriot system is precisely the key to protection against ballistic threats. The two leaders also discussed a range of other strategic issues, with further deliberations expected in upcoming high-level meetings.
Regarding the conversation with the President of the United States, which took place the day before, it was probably the best conversation we have had during this whole time, most productive. We discussed air defense issues, and I'm grateful for the willingness to help. The Patriot system is precisely the key to protection against ballistic threats. We also discussed several other important matters, which our teams will be working through in more detail in upcoming meetings.
In a stunning political move, billionaire Elon Musk has launched a new party in the US, calling it the America Party, to challenge what he describes as the country's one-party system. Announcing it on his platform X, Musk took aim at both Republicans and Democrats, saying America needs fresh leadership. The move comes after Musk openly criticized President Trump's newly signed tax cut and spending bill, warning that soaring deficits could bankrupt the country. Musk has also vowed to fund campaigns to unseat lawmakers who supported the bill. Police fired tear gas to disperse protesters who had gathered to voice their opposition to the construction of the A69 freeway in France's Morne-Scopent. Hundreds of people turned out for the demonstration, defying a ban by the Tarn prefecture. The A69 freeway project in France has faced significant opposition due to environmental concerns. The project aims to construct a new highway connecting Toulouse and Castres, but it has been met with resistance from environmental groups and local residents. Environmental groups have long called for the cancellation of the 53 kilometers project, advocating instead for improved rail services as a more sustainable alternative. Australia's Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke on Sunday condemned an alleged arson attack on the East Melbourne synagogue as an attack on Australia, describing it as the latest in a string of incidents targeting the country's Jewish community. About 20 worshippers were inside the historic synagogue when the fire broke out on Friday night, but no injuries were reported. Police have charged a man in connection with the alleged arson, and authorities are investigating possible links to an earlier disturbance on the same night.
What we see in the door that's behind me is an attack on Australia. That's what it is. When people have said, and there's been some reporting, that no one was physically injured, that doesn't mean no one was harmed. The community here was harmed, the Jewish community in Australia was harmed, and we were harmed as a nation. There were 3 attacks that night, and none of them belonged in Australia.
In Nepal, the Nagrik Unmukti Party, or NUP, has announced its decision to leave Nepal's federal government and move to the opposition following its planned exit from the Sudar Paschim provincial government. The decision comes after Sudur Paschim Chief Minister Kamal Bahadur Shah of the Nepali Congress dismissed NUP leader and Minister for Industry Rameshwar Chaudhary over alleged financial irregularities charges. NUP chairperson Ranjita Shresht stated that the party would officially inform the Speaker and Prime Minister of its decision and begin sitting in the opposition from the 8th July parliamentary session. In the Federal House of Representatives, NUP holds 4 of 275 seats. In the Sudur Paschim Provincial Assembly, it is the 4th largest party with 7 members. Despite NUP's withdrawal, the Congress-led provincial government still maintains a majority. At least 50 people, including 15 children, have died in catastrophic flash floods sweeping through central Texas, and search teams are racing to locate dozens more still missing. Among those unaccounted for are 27 young girls from Camp Mystic, a summer camp nestled in the state's Scenic Hill country. The disaster was triggered by torrential rains that dumped up to 15 inches of rain over the Guadalupe River. Authorities say the actual death toll could be higher as floodwaters ravaged multiple counties. Eyewitness Tonia Fucci, who was visiting a grandmother, recounted the destruction that followed deadly floodwaters and said that she is in complete shock seeing such devastation.
Complete shock. I'm still in shock today. The devastation was such that I'm still in shock today. And with the rescues going on and the helicopters, you just know there's so many missing children and missing people.
Heavy rains have caused the Orinoco River to overflow, flooding the Colombian border region of Vichada. Also, homes, roads and public services in Puerto Carreno and nearby areas are badly damaged. Around 6,000 people are suffering as emergency efforts speed up. Governor Fulberto Guevara announced a 6-month state of calamity to help bring urgent aid and recovery. The worst hit areas are struggling with blocked drainage and health risks as floodwaters continue to spread. France deploys a firefighting aircraft and mobilized hundreds of firefighters to battle wildfires in the southern part of the country after blazes erupted near the A61 and A9 motorways in the Oudh region. The fires, which have already scorched more than 400 hectares of vegetation, are the first major wildfires of the season and come in the wake of a 16-day heat wave that left the region dry and highly vulnerable. Thick smoke and advancing flames forced partial road closures and raised alarms among nearby communities. Fire Chief Eric Flores said that though the fire has been stabilized, it's not out yet and crews are working through the night to prevent flare-ups.
At present, the fire has been stabilized, but it's not out yet. Stabilized means that there are fewer intense outbreaks. But there are still many hotspots that we are going to have to deal with throughout the night. So it's only now that we are going to be able to put out some of the fire to prevent it from reigniting again tomorrow morning when the wind picks up and the heat returns.
Back home, the monsoon has tightened its grip across parts of India, prompting the Met Department to issue a red alert for the states of Himachal Pradesh and Maharashtra, warning of extremely heavy rainfall. The IMD has also issued an orange alert for several other states, including Delhi, Punjab, Haryana, Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Jharkhand, West Bengal and Kutch in Gujarat. Thunag Bazar in Himachal Pradesh's Mandi district has been severely affected by flash floods and a sudden cloud burst. Rescue teams, including the National Disaster Response Force or NDRF, have been deployed to carry out relief operations, while authorities remain on high alert as rain continues in parts of the district. The Met Department has issued a red alert for Himachal Pradesh. India's national capital, New Delhi, on Sunday witnessed rain, offering much-needed respite to Delhiites who had been enduring a prolonged spell of humidity. The IMD had issued an orange alert for Delhi, forecasting light to moderate rainfall accompanied by thunderstorms for the national capital over the next 2 days. Still to come on DD India Newshour, an analysis of the 17th BRICS summit in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro. Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, turns 90. Prime Minister Narendra Modi extends greetings on his birthday. And the nation pays tributes to Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee on his 125th birth anniversary.
Welcome to DD India, where a billion voices unite, connecting viewers to the stories that matter. India is not just another news channel. It's the international channel that puts the spotlight on the global south.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Manman Bhattacharya. A recap of the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi lands in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro, gets a vibrant welcome from Brazil's Indian community. PM to take part in the 2-day 17th BRICS summit starting today. Israel to send team to Qatar for Gaza hostage and ceasefire negotiations but rejects Hamas demands to change the ceasefire proposal. Netanyahu to meet US President Donald Trump in Washington on Monday. Billionaire Elon Musk launches a new political party in the US, calls it America Party, takes aim at both Republicans and Democrats, says America needs fresh leadership. The world's eyes are on Rio de Janeiro as the 17th BRICS summit is all set to begin later today, with the grouping expanding to now 10 full members in crucial discussions on global governance, climate and development on the agenda. The stage is set for high-stakes diplomacy. Our correspondent Meghna Dev brings us this report from Rio de Janeiro.
The 17th BRICS summit officially kicks off in Rio on July 6th. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Rio de Janeiro to attend the summit, marking India's strong commitment to the BRICS agenda. The summit is especially significant as India takes over the BRICS chair next year. This year, BRICS has expanded to 10 full member countries with 12 partner nations, 8 invited countries and 7 leaders of regional and multilateral organizations. The theme for this year's summit is strengthening global South cooperation for inclusive and sustainable governance. Day 1 features high-stakes sessions beginning with a discussion on global governance reforms limited to full members only.
The program on the 6th includes the first agenda item, the reform of the global governance. And thereafter, there is the second item on the agenda, the peace and security, which is in the working lunch format.
On the 7th of July, the item of the agenda is environment, COP30 and global health. 4 major deliverables are expected to emerge from this summit. The first being the leaders' declaration, second, statement on global governance and artificial intelligence, framework on climate finance, and BRICS partnership to eliminate socially determined diseases. Brazil's BRICS priorities aligns very closely to India's priorities for the BRICS, especially in terms of bringing to the fore the concerns of the global South. Intense discussions have been going on the Sherpa and Sous-Sherpa level to build a consensus to pave way for a consensus on the BRICS outcome. And when we actually see that the world shifts focus to this summit, the consensus and the outcome will be able to pave way for new global cooperation amongst the BRICS nations. With camera person Piyush Verma, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
And joining us now is our correspondent from Rio de Janeiro, Meghna Dev. Meghna, tell us about the kind of reception Prime Minister Narendra Modi got upon arrival there from the Indian community. How excited was the Indian community when you spoke to them? And also, when does the Prime Minister arrive at the summit venue later today?
He will be arriving here in some time from now, as we have said, because President Lula is set to receive his guests for the summit. The leaders will be meeting here. This is the Museum of Modern Art in Rio de Janeiro. And what we also get to understand, we had shown our viewers a report about the security preparations that have been put in place. Clearly, Monsoon, it is extremely evident that a massive deployment of forces has been done here to ensure security at the summit venue. Transit routes as well as diplomatic delegations. Besides that, also what people here tell us that this is something similar. The kind of security preparations that are here are similar to what happened during the G20. So definitely 24/7 surveillance is being kept. The whole city, especially in terms of the important tourist attractions and important places like the Ipanema or the Copacabana beach, all of that have also been kept under surveillance. So there is a lot of deployment of military and police personnel clearly seen here. As you said, last evening, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived here in Rio de Janeiro, and he did arrive to a very grand welcome by the Indian community. What we also did see that there were people who had traveled all the way from Brasilia, from Sao Paulo, from different parts of Brazil to Rio de Janeiro to just get a glimpse of the Prime Minister. Besides, we did also see a performance, obviously dedicated, paying tribute to Operation Sindoor and success. Also, we did see that a bunch of Brazilian youngsters were chanting Indian mantras, Sanskrit mantras and songs, devotional music, which actually left Prime Minister Narendra Modi quite awestruck, and he did also congratulate the Brazilian youngsters for their dedication to Indian devotional music. Clearly, a very warm welcome that Prime Minister Narendra Modi received, though it was a very long day for him because he did complete all his engagements in Argentina and then flew directly to Rio de Janeiro, and then he obviously has a couple of more days of engagements ahead in his first and second leg of his visit to Brazil, because the first leg obviously does have the BRICS summit, the meetings with the leaders. There are also bilaterals and meetings at the sidelines expected. We will be able to get you more details once the day unfolds. But obviously, the second leg also has his state visit to Brazil, which is one of the most awaited visits that we can see. And as the ambassador of India to Brazil tells us that this is the first state visit in about 6 decades of an Indian Prime Minister to Brazil. So this makes it even more significant when Prime Minister Narendra Modi is here.
Absolutely. So the first state visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Brazil in 6 decades. That's quite interesting. Well, thank you, Meghna, for joining us with those updates. Let's get more perspective on the 17th BRICS Summit. Joining us is Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former Indian ambassador. Well, Ambassador, BRICS has now expanded to 10 full members from 5. The theme of the 17th BRICS Summit in Rio, we know, is strengthening Global South cooperation for more inclusive and sustainable governance. So broadly speaking, what can we expect from the summit being skipped by Xi Jinping for the first time in 12 years since he became Chinese president? China is, of course, represented here by Chinese Premier Li Keqiang, and also President Putin will only attend via video link. Also, there are reports that the Iranian president won't be coming, the Egyptian president won't be coming too.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. As you mentioned, the summit's official theme is strengthening global South cooperation for more inclusive and sustainable governance. And despite the fact that some important leaders of BRICS countries are not going to be attending, the fact of the matter is that the summit is very important, particularly for India. You know, Prime Minister Modi has made it a point to attend every BRICS summit, and his regular presence shows the importance which India attaches to BRICS. So this summit of the BRICS is more than just a platform to speak out on issues which matter to the global South, but it will also give an opportunity to India to lead and influence important global matters. You know, in the past too, Prime Minister has used BRICS to demonstrate that India follows an independent foreign policy and maintains good ties with the developed countries while also working closely with the developing countries. Now, according to media reports, there are some issues which are likely to figure in the BRICS summit, and these are challenging. For instance, some reports have mentioned that the BRICS draft statement includes a proposed condemnation of unilateral US tariffs and also criticism of Israel's actions in Gaza. Now, these are issues that New Delhi has approached with strategic caution. Now, for instance, as regards the US policies on tariffs, India has been attempting to finalize a trade deal with the United States, and any mention in the declaration of this BRICS summit explicitly naming the Trump administration for the trade tariff would be a problem. So I'm sure that we will try to moderate matters. Again, you know, I understand that the draft declaration proposed reportedly expresses serious concern about the situation in Palestine and heightens resumed Israeli attacks. There's also impediments to humanitarian aid delivery to Gaza. Now, here again, there is a problem as far as our perspective is concerned, because we have maintained a very, very balanced position between the different sides. So we also abstained recently from a UN General Assembly vote calling for immediate ceasefire in Gaza. So we are likely to tread very carefully in these BRICS discussions on these matters.
Okay. Also, it's interesting that you've referred to geopolitical issues that have, of course, we've seen in the past how things really panned out, like you referred to at the UN or in the SCO or even in the BRICS earlier. But in his departure statement, PM Modi said that as a founding member of BRICS, India is committed to the bloc as a vital platform for cooperation among emerging economies. So what would be India's role at this summit, particularly in the context of reforming global governance, which of course is the topmost priority as far as India or the founding members are concerned?
You know, BRICS gives to India a valuable opportunity to lead. And Prime Minister Modi has always used the BRICS summits to demonstrate that India follows an independent foreign policy. He has often called for global institutions to become fairer and more inclusive. So I see this happening again at the BRICS summit, which starts today, because it will give to India a platform for expressing views on global issues like trade, finance, and climate change. You know, India sees BRICS as a key platform to push its global interests and also support other developing nations. India has been using BRICS to demand fairer rules at bodies like the UN and the IMF, and I'm sure that at this summit also we will continue to do that. You would also recall that one major initiative from BRICS has been the New Development Bank, which has provided over 35 billion in development loans. And this idea for setting up the bank was proposed by India at the 4th BRICS Summit in 2012, which was held in New Delhi. So there will be every effort made to take the idea of the New Development Bank forward in regard to the role which it can play in assisting developing countries for their needs.
Interesting that you say that. If you look at the reform of the financial architecture particularly, then BRICS finance ministers have made a unified proposal for IMF reforms. It includes a new distribution of voting rights and an end to the tradition of European management at the helm. Now, this is for quota realignment in line with members' relative positions in the global economy, while protecting the quota shares of the poorest members and also increasing quotas for developing countries. And now they've agreed to back this shared proposal at an IMF review meeting in December, which will of course discuss changes to this quota system that defines contributions and voting rights. And here what's important is that this joint statement is the first time that the BRICS countries have agreed on a unified position on these proposed reforms. So is then BRICS showing in action how it is serious about the reform of global financial architecture, since these Bretton Woods institutions have long been dominated by traditional Western powers?
You know, it is because of the fact that these financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank have been dominated by Western powers that this whole idea of setting up the new development bank came up, because it was felt that the developing countries were not getting a say or that they didn't have their voice in these important institutions. Now, of course, there is some indication of forward movement in regard to giving the developing countries a greater say in these matters. Therefore, I think that the role which BRICS has played in regard to making this happen is very significant, because it has given countries like India a platform to voice their views in regard to the reform of these global institutions, a reform of the global economic and political order. And naturally, this has worked in favor of the interests of the developing countries. And if at all we see a greater say being given to them at these international fora, then surely the role of BRICS has been significant in this context.
Also, Ambassador, this statement confirms discussions to set up a new guarantee mechanism backed by the NDB that you had referred to, which of course is a multilateral bank funded by the BRICS, which aims to lower financing costs and also boost investment in developing economies. Can you put that into perspective for us?
Well, let us see how things shape out. I am not going to prejudge, but like you, I am following this matter very closely, because a reform in this regard will certainly play out to the advantage of the developing countries. But I'm watching with great interest, but still with some degree of caution, to see how things are actually going to shape out. Let me say that the global financial system is weighted in favor of the developed countries, and the developing countries find themselves at a great disadvantage. And in fact, this is the reason why Prime Minister Modi has championed the cause of the Global South. In fact, India has become the leader of the Global South, and the Prime Minister has sent across a message to the developed countries repeatedly that India believes in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We are one family, and the family cannot be happy if the developing countries are unhappy, or in fact, the least developing countries are so badly in need of international assistance. So India has, of course, repeatedly extended a helping hand to all such countries, but it is calling on the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to help these countries out as much as possible. And in fact, if I may be allowed to repeat, the setting up of the new development bank in 2012 at the New Delhi summit of BRICS was for this precise reason, to give assistance to developing countries and enable them ultimately to have a greater say in the International Monetary Bank and the World Bank.
You mean the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, yes. Okay, Ambassador, towards the end, we know that the next chair of the BRICS summit would be India. So the 18th BRICS summit will be held maybe 12 months from now here in India. So how crucial in that sense is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's participation in this summit? And do you think that we are all on board as far as the core issues of reform of global financial architecture or global governance architecture is concerned?
Well, the BRICS summit is certainly going to focus a lot of attention on the international governance systems. And India will perhaps play a very important role. Of course, it would have been more, more significant if the heads of China, Russia, Egypt and Iran were also present, because that would have brought together some of the biggest power players in the world. But regardless of that, if the BRICS countries, which now number 10, and which are very important players in the global system, if they can make their voice heard with some degree of unanimity, then it will make the BRICS voice count in this particular context. Now, let me mention that BRICS, why do I say that it can matter much more than perhaps it has been doing in the past? BRICS countries now account for more than 50% of the world's population, and they make up about 40% of the global GDP. With the new members of the BRICS, it now controls about 44% of the world's oil supply, and about $35 billion has been given to developing countries by the new development bank. So all this shows how BRICS is a very weighty organization, and for sure it can make its voice count much, much more than it was able to do before the expansion which took place in 2024 and later in 2025.
We leave it at that. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, such a pleasure to have you on DD India for putting the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to attend the 17th BRICS summit, particularly in Rio de Janeiro, into perspective.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Moving on, India's Minister of Cooperation, Amit Shah, interacted with the people associated with cooperative sector at the iconic Amul Dairy in Anand in the western Indian state of Gujarat. He was there on the occasion of completion of 4 years of India's Ministry of Cooperation. In the 4 years, the Ministry of Cooperation has taken several initiatives. All these steps are based on 5P strategy, which stands for people, packs, platform, policy and prosperity. In the last 4 years, since the setting up of the Ministry of Cooperation, 60 new initiatives have been taken for development, promotion and equitable growth of the cooperative sector in India.
मित्रों, हमारे देश में सहकारिता वैदिक काल से चली। पंचायत, चौपाल, समिति, भंडारा, लंगर, साझा चूल्हा, सहभोज, अनेक प्रकार से एक साथ बैठना, सोचना, भोजन करना, काम करना, ये हमारे समाज का संस्कार रहा और उसी संस्कार को आज के ही दिन नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने विधायी स्वरूप देते हुए देश में पहली बार अलग सहकारिता मंत्रालय बनाने का निर्णय हमारे नेता नरेंद्र मोदी ने किया।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has extended warm greetings to Tibetan spiritual leader Dalai Lama on the occasion of his 90th birthday. PM Modi said that the Dalai Lama has been an enduring symbol of love, compassion, patience and moral discipline, adding that his message has inspired respect and admiration across all faiths. The Dalai Lama's 90th birthday is being celebrated with religious prayers and cultural programs at the main temple in Dharamsala, a town in the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh. The ceremony is being attended by thousands of followers from around the world. Also, Indian Minister Kiran Rijiju and Arunachal Pradesh Chief Minister Pema Khandu attended the celebrations of the spiritual leader in Dharamsala. The nation pays a heartfelt tribute to Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee on his 124th birth anniversary today. As the visionary founder of the Bharatiya Jan Sangh, Dr. Mukherjee was known for his fearless voice and unwavering commitment to nationalist ideals. He laid the ideological foundation for a self-reliant and united India. His tireless dedication to national integration and his ultimate sacrifice continue to inspire generations. Leaders cutting across party lines paid tributes to Dr. Mukherjee at the Central Hall of Samvidhan Sadan. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla, BJP's National President and Union Minister JP Nadda and Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav and others offered floral tributes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also paid heartfelt tributes to Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. PM Modi posted on X a heartfelt tribute to the immortal son of the nation, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, on his birth anniversary. He sacrificed his life to protect the honor, dignity and pride of the country. His ideals and principles are invaluable in the construction of a developed and self-reliant India. Towards the end, heavy metal legend Black Sabbath, led by Ozzy Osbourne, delivered a farewell performance in Birmingham on Saturday. Tens of thousands of fans gathered for the historic show, which featured tribute sets and concluded with a final bow. Ozzy performed seated on a black throne, symbolizing legacy and resilience. That's it then in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Munmun Paracharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.